from our 7 Tasmania studios. Your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Tasmania is lagging behind the rest of the country when it comes to overall economic performance. CommSec's State of the States report shows population growth at an 8-year low, but building construction is strong.
The report providing a window into the economic performance of each state and territory. Tasmania dropping to 6th on the table. South Australia remains in the top spot.
Look, it's evidence that there's headwinds across the country at the moment. You've seen those interest rate rises. The federal government have to be held accountable for that. We're doing what we can in Tasmania.
Tasmania's real economic growth is up 5.2%, placing it 4th, just behind Victoria. At 4.9%, the state also recording the fastest wage growth in the country. Population growth is where Tasmania needs to improve, with the weakest growth in 8 years.
There are now plane loads of Tasmanians leaving for better opportunities elsewhere.
The state's strengths reflected in unemployment figures and construction work. Tasmania in 2nd spot and only slightly behind leader South Australia on both counts. Dwelling starts letting the state down, falling more than 13% this quarter, getting workers a problem.
10 years ago, we had apprentices knocking on our doors for jobs. Now we are actually knocking on the school doors, asking kids to come into the building industry.
Retail spending, another strong indicator of overall performance, puts Tasmania in 5th position, although spending in the state is up 8.8% on average over the past decade.
The retailers were really bracing themselves for a very tough winter. It's not been as tough as they thought it was going to be.
Economies across Australia slowing as consumers respond to higher borrowing costs and cost of living pressures. Melinda Ogden, 7 Tasmania News.
A 27-year-old South Launceston man charged with theft and firearm charges has been released on bail. The Magistrates Court heard Jay Dillon went on a 6-day spree earlier this month, allegedly stealing from commercial premises and private properties. He's also accused of exchanging a stolen air rifle for drugs. Dillon has been charged with 7 counts of stealing, 6 counts of burglary and other firearms offences. He'll face court again in September. 3 decades after a German tourist vanished on Tasmania's east coast, police are still investigating. Nancy Grunwald is presumed to have died as a result of foul play, her case being highlighted this Missing Persons Week in the hope of finding the truth.
German tourist Nancy Grunwald arrived in Tasmania on March 6, 1993. Less than a week later, she'd disappear without a trace. Hiring a push bike from Devonport with the intention of riding to Hobart, the last confirmed sighting of the then 26-year-old was on the Tasman Highway, about 5 kilometres south of Scamander.
The search so far has been a frustrating exercise for police, who haven't found any trace of the woman. But police aren't about to give up.
And 31 years later, they still haven't.
It's an ongoing investigation. These things never close until we can give some comfort to the family.
Nancy's parents visited in the months following to appeal for witnesses, even riding bikes along the same route.
They wish to do this mainly because to see where their daughter was last and what she saw, which they would like to see.
Clothes were found nearby a year later, but forensic testing couldn't link them to Nancy. In 2004, a coroner finding she died as a result of foul play. Nancy's case is one of 8 women around the country being highlighted this Missing Persons Week.
A 26-year-old female tourist who's come over here to have a good time and have a look at our state has tragically died, and we don't know where she is.
Her younger sister Frauke saying, "Thoughts of what if never end. I wish I still had a big sister to talk to. Receiving an answer would finally give me closure to grieve properly." Police are certain there are people out there who know what happened to Nancy, and a $500,000 reward is still on offer for information that leads to a conviction.
The littlest bit of information could be what is needed to crack the case. Seeing the red mountain bike or something similar in a strange location, or just suspicious behaviour back around the time that she went missing.
Please help us. Thank you.
Nick Kelly, 7 Tasmania News.
An Indian student left a paraplegic after an alleged assault in Hobart has been granted permanent residency. Devarshi Decker will stay in Australia following one of outgoing Immigration Minister Andrew Giles' final acts in the role. The upgraded visa status means he can continue his medical care in Tasmania and access support through the NDIS.
Dave's determination, his strength is testament to everybody being so much behind him.
And it's been a very difficult time for the family and indeed members of the community. Can I say this was received across the parliamentary divide.
Dev's accused attacker is due to front court again this week. Tasmania's $4 billion overseas export industry is on display as the state hosts its largest inbound trade event since the pandemic. Alcohol, meat and seafood products are front and centre at the event, stacking up in both national and international markets.
So Tasmanian products with its clean green image are highly sought after Chinese consumers.
Buyers and traders from across the world are descending on the apple aisle all week long. The event wraps up on Friday. An eye-catching native cockatoo has made its way to a Tasmanian wildlife sanctuary. A rare condition makes living in the wild threatening, meaning Tweety will need to spend life in captivity.
This is Tweety, one of Bonang Wildlife Sanctuary's newest arrivals, and there's no guessing as to where the name came from.
My first thoughts when I saw Tweety was just a giant canary. Like I just never actually seen anything like that before.
Suspected to have been hit by a car and abandoned, Tweety arrived at Bonang 2 months ago. Bright yellow in colour due to a condition that causes a reduction in pigment, the cockatoo has caused quite a stir with visitors.
Latino's a recessive gene, so it's basically they'll come out in a more yellow, either a dark or a light yellow, but often have the red eye as well. So it's simply just a very rare mutation, essentially.
And while Tweety is now surrounded by feathered friends, out in the wild, bright yellow colouring doesn't help when trying to blend in.
Not wanting to attract predators and birds of prey and things that might eat you, being bright yellow is not how you want to dress.
Being so rare makes Tweety highly sought after, and the offers are flying in from far and wide, some willing to pay tens of thousands of dollars, but Bonang says they're simply not interested.
So Tweety will be desexed, so there's no way of potentially breeding, and can just live a very happy life here, which may be 50, 60, even 70 or 80 years.
A very long and happy life for a one-of-a-kind bird. Lily Thompson, 7 Tasmanian News.
Construction is well underway to deliver a $22 million upgrade to the Royal Hobart Hospital's pharmacy facility. Once complete, the redevelopment will provide more space to manufacture, produce and assemble medication for Tasmanians who need it most.
Having a state-of-the-art facility is really important not only to us, it's important to our patients, but also to the Tasmanian public to ensure that they can continue to access contemporary medicine.
The build is currently 30% complete and is expected to be open by the end of next year. Organ donation is an important, yet often uncomfortable conversation. With the nation's registration rates lagging, one local transplant recipient is sharing his story, hoping to inspire more Tasmanians to register as organ donors.
14 months ago, Brendan's life looked completely different. The 73-year-old's kidney function had plummeted, leaving him on dialysis 3 times a week.
It was very time-consuming, about 15 hours a week on the machines, just to keep me going, to keep me alive, basically.
That was until his partner gave him the ultimate gift, a new kidney.
I'd actually forgotten how good it was to feel well. It's like a weight lifting off your shoulders that you don't have to worry about whether you're going to be here tomorrow.
The transplant recipient sharing his story of survival, hoping it sparks a conversation about the importance of organ donation.
Your family need to know as well, because you won't make the decision, you won't be here. They will make the decision. And this is why you need to talk to them.
With roughly 1,800 Australians currently on the organ wait list, there's an urgent appeal for more people to join the National Register.
To actually know that someone wants to be a donor, particularly if they're on the register, it makes that decision very, very easy for the families.
Launceston's Town Hall is among a number of Tasmanian monuments turning magenta each night this Donate Life Week to shine a light on the push for more donors.
It only takes 1 minute to register, and that's all it is. And for that 1 minute, you can actually change the lives of up to 7 people.
Giving more Tasmanians a second chance at life. Victoria Risto, 7 Tasmania News.
As North Launceston's reign of terror continues in the TSL, clubs would be shaking at the prospect of playing a final against the team who've won every game this year by an average of 58 points. But if the third place Tigers are worried, they aren't letting on, despite being yet to beat either of the top 2 teams.
We'd be happy to take on whoever comes our way. We're still a very confident group. Obviously that stems from last year, obviously winning the flag, but we don't mind who we verse.
Tyler's notched up a new PB after booting an impressive 9 goals against Launceston on the weekend.
The best I had was 7, and that was the day I broke my leg, so I was a bit worried. I actually sort of hurt my calf a little bit when I was getting a shot for my 8th, and I was a bit worried, but it was just cramps.
Unsurprisingly, Tyler is the 3-vote winner for that game and the Crips Player of the Year. The Demons take all 3 votes. Josh Bingham the top as they record their 2nd win of the season. And 3 votes for North Launceston's Michael Stengel puts him 2nd on the leaderboard behind Kingboro's Kieran Lovell. Meanwhile, medals are being dished out away from the Olympics too. The Aussie underwater hockey under-19 women featuring Tassie's Grace Wells winning gold at the World Championships. The under-24 men with Tasmanian Ed Heffer taking silver in Malaysia, going down to the Kiwis in the final. And fresh from his Euro trip for the World GP, Kyron Bakett is keeping a narrow grip on the E1 Championship with a 2nd place finish following a rocky start to rounds 7 and 8 of the Australian Off-Road Championships. Fellow Tasmanian Jonty Reinders is now 3rd in the E2 after 2 very close 2nd place finishes up in Queensland. And that is Tonight in Sport. Kim?
OK, thanks Nick. Murph will join us after the break with the weather.
Good evening. After a chilly start statewide, Hobart and Devonport finally reached 11 degrees today, Launceston 12 and Burnie 10. King Island and Edison Point the high of 13 after our low of -7 at Lyowini. Strawn reached 12, Low Head, St Helens and Flinders Island 11, Bushy Park and Grove 10 degrees. King Island the highest rainfall 6 millimetres as clouds swept through Bass Strait, a little bit clung to the east and west coasts as well. Cloud is with a cold front clipping Western Australia with more low cloud over southern Victoria and a low has produced cloud along the New South Wales coast as well. Tomorrow a large high sits directly to our north casting a ridge our way as well as to the far north of the country. The winds variable 5 to 15 knots tending more northerly over western waters and light southerlies up the east coast. We do have a road weather alert that's been issued due to expected icy roads for most of the state tomorrow morning. Be careful of the dangerous driving conditions. Forecast for tomorrow, partly cloudy for Hobart, 13 the maximum, just 11 for Adventure Bay and Tarraleah. Launceston a top of 13 degrees after -2, a morning frost. Morning frost for Devonport as well, 12 the high and 12 for Bridport as well. For Burnie, partly cloudy and 12, 13 the top for Strawn, a possible shower for Marrawar and 13 degrees, while for St Helens, a mostly sunny 13 for Swansea, and Whitemark 3 to 12, the temperature range and sunny on Flinders Island. On Wednesday, areas of morning frost and valley fog ahead of a fine day with light winds. Fine on Thursday, apart from a light shower over the east and northwest of the state, and on Friday, a few isolated showers over the east coast and the northwest, otherwise fine. Showers and 21 in Perth tomorrow, sunny in Adelaide, cool and partly cloudy weather for Melbourne, a shower or 2 and 16 degrees in Sydney, sunny for Brisbane, Cairns, Darwin and Alice Springs. And fairly clear conditions at the moment, Kim. Add all those up and it's 15 degrees.
We wish it was, but it's not. Thank you, Murph. That wraps up tonight's bulletin. We'll have news, sport and weather updates throughout the night. But for now, on behalf of the entire team, it's good night.